armed officers hit the streets to search out the members. 55 JMKAZE were arrested or charged with drugs or gun possession. The JMKAZE go back in Denver to the mid-80s.
We some G's, we some hustlers, we some gangsters, we some killers in the streets. We some hustlers, we some gangsters, we some killers in the streets. We some G's, we some G's, we some G's. They were green, we were purple. They were green, we were purple. G's up, hoes down. Thinking about the mission, the intuition. I got the ammunition, got the government team, not the coalition. What you know about the envision, revision, killing them off in the game of precision. Staying away from the haters who never believed in my vision. Feel like a patient with mental condition. Suckers wanna take my position. Hearing the people that talking about different religion. Coming up in every way collision. I'm the one to take them out, dress them up, mortician. Feel like the bad guy, better make way rendition. I'm the one that brought you reach some G's, part 1, 2, 3, and now with 4. Making them hits and we about to explode. Making the music, it's like taking meds. Talk to the living and then talk to the dead. Got a spiritual leader for the people like an infrared. Killing everybody on the mic, I'm hearing voices in my head. Feeling sick like dread. If you other rappers wanna play, I gotta put you to bed. Tameable with my genius, unexplainable with generational. I'm a tongue twister machine, it's interchangeable. Gotta keep a motivation up and inspirational. When you diss me, I'm a traceable. Gotta keep my posse girl put out because we unbreakable.
Now my homies throwing up the G with purple places observational.
Check it out by now, you probably heard of me. Your boy back on that scenery with a brand new flow, so gamely G. Here we go, first off, I'm blessed to say that I'm here today to be your voice to represent for my nights who gone away. And the ones that's doing time, wishing they could fly away. Only so much we can do from out here, so we hope and pray that you keep your head up and your face strong. It's a cold ass world that we in, we just doing what we do to survive. So when it's time, we gon' ride. Cross my fingers, throwing up west.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I was being in a live stream earlier today, but I had to put everything together, the content that was going to be talking about tonight. But welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight. And for everybody who's there, not very many, but that's okay. It's not about the numbers. It's about the content. Gino, what's going on, man? Never Obey, good to see you in the building. Also, Jamar, hope everything's going good for you down there where you're at. So tonight a few things we're going to talk about. I'm sure you're already hearing the stories already that are flying about as far as Deathrow Eone. So without further ado, we're not going to even wait to see if anybody's going to jump in. Yeah, I've been working like crazy, man, just traveling and things of that nature. So haven't been out. And it's not, and let me just clarify these things. It's not because, somebody thinks that, they ran, different people off the internet and stuff like that. That person is delusional if he thinks he has that much power to do those kind of things. So what YouTube doesn't pay the bills. This is just certainly just a hobby. So, if it would be certainly different if we're making a lot of money doing this and they stop the income or something like that. But I think in the last month or so, probably made like $2.50. So it's not anything that I'm going to quit anytime soon, my career to go into YouTube because YouTube doesn't pay. And especially with all the algorithms and everything that's happening with Google right now, it's hard to start a new fan base and things of that nature. Especially if you're talking about something that's unique, then you certainly can get an audience. But, the Tupac game right now is, I wouldn't say it's conflated, but I would say that there's a lot of people doing it. So, and yeah. So anyhow, we're going to jump into it. Like I said, good to see everybody here. We got a chat on the next one as the first scene. So as you see the money dropping, lots of money's dropping. So you heard the stories already. Hasbro has spent billions, if not $1 billion. It's reportedly, take it with a grain of salt, whatever you want to call it, billions of dollars for Deathrow Records. Now, to me, I say in this day and age, that is not an obscure purchase, a toy company buying a record label. And the only reason I say that is because there's so much potential for Hasbro to make a lot of money on Deathrow memorabilia, creating it, matter of factly. You see right now, and just to give you an example of everything that's taking place right now, those Funko Pops Those things are very, very popular. People spend lots of money for them. And if you buy certain ones, you're going to make a hefty little payday. So, I know Tupac Shakur Funko Pop. Matter of fact, I don't have one. I do want one. But right now, the going price, from what I see, with a good box, with a protector, and Tupac intact. There's two variants. First variant is going to be the Tupac without the eyebrows. I think that's the one that's more expensive. And then you also have the one with the eyebrows. So going price right now for a Funko Pop Tupac, $500. And that's, I think, the minimum is what I've seen. I've seen some all the way up to 1,000. I don't know if that's just inflating the price. But of course, it's only going to increase in value as time goes on. So, I'm certainly going to get a Funko Tupac. But switching gears, Hasbro, now they own the rights to Deathrow Records through the purchase of Eone. So now you're going to start seeing the vast amounts of creativity they're going to have with, let's say, Tupac, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Suge Knight, and any artist that is owned and any IP that is owned by Deathrow Records that was essentially owned by Eone. Now they're going to make tons of money doing this. I mean, think about Hasbro. If it's not the biggest toy company, it's one of the biggest. I don't know if Tyco is bigger, but Hasbro has to be one of the biggest toy makers. Very known. I mean, you think about all the distribution they have from the big box stores, Walmart, things of that nature. All these stores are going to be pushing all this stuff out. So there's not going to be any limitations to as far as how far they can push this. They're going to push, like I said, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Suge Knight, action figures. I don't know if they're into T-shirts, maybe T-shirts, cartoonish T-shirts. Who knows? I mean, just the options are just, there's no limits. I mean, it's just going to be, they're going to make their money back. I think it was a great investment by Hasbro. If I thought it wasn't a good investment, I would say no. But under the deal, there's going to be, well, the shareholders are all going to get $6.86 cash for each common share. So for each share, they're going to get $6.86, and I think that's the 30% premium or up from what the price was that ended today on the stock market. So if you're an E1 shareholder, each share you're going to get roughly about $7, and then of course, if you cash out, depending on how many you have, if you have $1,000, you have to pay capital gains on that, and that essentially is going to eat into your pocket. But if you have a lot of shares, you can make a lot of money. And as you may know, E1 also owned the masters for the game, Joe Budden, DJ Khaled. So now those all belong to Hasbro. Now what are they going to do with those? Can they use their likeness, the game, Joe Budden, DJ Khaled, and several other individuals that are under that label, E1? They're able to use their likeness and they can make more toys. And this is probably the best time to be making toys if you're a large manufacturer like that. Tons of money in it, as I mentioned, as an example. Perfect example. Funko Pops, whoever owns that is making tons of money. And then, of course, you have the aftermarket, which people are making money because they're inflating the prices for each Funko Pop that they're using. So I think it's a great idea, and I hope that Hasbro is very creative in how they market these toys. And I think it's going to draw a lot of attention to a lot of people who like Tupac, who like Snoop Dogg, who like Suge Knight, who like anything that has to do with Death Row. I mean, these are going to be like little collector's items for people. Now, it may not be something that is like a G.I. Joe or, a toy that's, I guess, little on the safe side for people. But it's going to draw a lot from people, especially in the Tupac community. Tupac community is huge. So I see there being a lot of money to be made. And hopefully they do a better job than E1 did with their marketing strategy, with putting things together, and things of that nature. So that's that for that. So Deathrow is officially sold. And not only that, but E1, just to give you an example, they made $30 million in the first quarter of this year, which is a lot of money. Now, can Hasbro make more than $30 million in the next quarter? Absolutely. I think toys are going to sell a lot more than records are. So that's going to be good. Yeezy 808, welcome. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to read some comments here. So Hasbro bought Deathrow. Yep, they bought Deathrow. Maybe we get Tupac dolls now. Yes, you're going to get Tupac dolls for sure. You're going to get Tupac dolls. Now, the other thing is what's going to be the price range for these things, for the toys they're going to make? Are they going to make them affordable for people? $10, $20? What is going to be their sense of direction as far as how to recoup their money as fast as they can? It's not going to be something like where they're going to have to hurry up and try to pump these things out because they know that once the fad fades away, their investment's going to be slow. This thing is going to blow up, man. As soon as you see these Tupac dolls, I can guarantee you what's going to happen. And we already know what's going to happen. People are going to go out to the stores. People are going to go out and buy them. And then people are going to sell them in the aftermarket, which would be Craigslist, OfferUp, you name it. If you use it, you've seen it. People buy these things and they raise the price. So if you buy a Tupac doll for $10, and that's the other question too, is Hasbro gonna mass manufacture these dolls, or are they gonna do a certain amount at a certain time? So let's just say that they're gonna pump out 2,000 Tupac dolls, figurines, whatever you want to call it, and then of course that's gonna raise the supply and demand. Because if you only have 2,000, they're gonna distribute throughout the country all these dolls. That's gonna drive the price to the roof. So that'd be good for the aftermarket sellers. But if they don't do that, and they just want to pump out 100,000 Tupac figurines at $10 a piece, you do the math, and that's a pretty good investment, initial investment, just on one likeness, which would be Tupac. Now, the debate will be, and we'll see as it goes along, and this is a future prospect, but we're going to be able to determine, and this may not be a good example, but we're going to be able to determine whether or not Tupac is more popular than Snoop Dogg once these dolls start getting sold. Now, unless somebody goes out that's pro Snoop Dogg and buys a whole lot of Snoop Dogg dolls to kind of prove their point, then of course it's going to be a jaded example. But if it doesn't work that way, and it's, one for one, we already know the Tupac figurine is an outsell the Snoop Dogg figurine, and so forth and so on. So I'm pretty excited to see what the future holds for that. And I'll be honest, I'll be one of the first people to buy a Tupac figurine. And I won't buy a Snoop Dogg figurine because I don't like Snoop Dogg. I'll be honest with you. If I sat here and say I hate him, I don't. I think that his first album, which was Doggy Style, was a great album. But after that, everything else is just garbage. When he went to No Limit Records, garbage. There was no replay value on that at all, period. And even Master P's music wasn't in replay value, but I'm not even going to go into any of that. That's just a fad that worked for the time being. Doesn't work today. Records don't sell anymore. People aren't buying them. So it is what it is. So yes, and I'm going to get a Funko Pop, Tupac, for sure. Before end of the year, before the price goes up. So I read a few comments here. We'll move into the next segment, but for everybody that's in the chat room, sound off. What is it that you think about this deal? Do you think it's a good deal for Deathrow? Well, actually for the people that were in death row, or do you think this kind of distorts history for them as them being little toys now rather than? I mean, because when you think of toys, you don't think of anything serious. You know, it's really a game. It's a kid's game. It's a toy. You know, that's why they call them toys. You can't take them serious if for entertainment. So we'll read some comments here and see what we got. But let me know. Let the group know. What do you think? You think the toys are going to be good for Death Row history, or do you think it's going to be one of those things that flops and people are going to be like, why the hell did they make any toys for? They just ruin Death Row in a certain sense instead of them trying to figure out other ways to promote the music and the legacy of Death Row. They went out and made some cheap toys that nobody cared about. So we have Bren Make Morn. What's going on? Are you just gonna farm out DR? Don't know what that means. Any word? No word. I have no word on that person. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't even worry about that, to be honest with you, Easy. I mean, that's his life. That's not my life. I'm not worried about that. That's kumbaya time for him. Not me. Not interested. Don't care. But I buy houses. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Maybe some limited collector's edition at first. Yeah, that could be a good enticing way to get people to pull out their pocketbook and spend some money. So we do a first run limited edition. That's a good idea. They do that, then they can raise the price, maybe go to $25 or something like that. $30. I don't know if people want to pay that, but you do a limited edition, you can make some money back really quickly. So let's see what else we got here. Maybe some limited edition. The Pac doll is gonna sell faster than the than the Popeye sandwiches. Yep, I guess so. I mean, according to Popeyes, they're all sold out. There's no sandwiches to be had. There, matter of fact, there's some rappers that are selling sandwiches for $1,000 a pop, and I think if anything, we might want to start a GoFundMe for somebody who may need some commissary or something, and we can put some Popeye sandwiches on eBay for them, and then hopefully we can make some money. So, all right. So he didn't want the trouble that could come with DR. Master P always has been, but you would have on the ultimate slap in the face for Suge and those that hate him, but I don't know. You're right. Chronic, Doggy Style, and some of the songs on there. Snoop was garbage besides that time. Snoop has his loyal fans. And that's right. Snoop Dogg does have his loyal fans. And me personally, I'm trying to figure out like what draws them to like Snoop Dogg. What is it that he brings to the table that people like about him? Was it because he was his first album, Doggy Style? And does do people identify with him because he's a gang member? He's part of that C group, and maybe people that are part of that C group identify with him. It's a gang thing. So it's kind of like, and that was going to be one of the last topics of discussion, very brief tonight. But all these guys, they stick together, from that set. They basically favor each other. So in no way would they ever really favor Tupac, because depending on who you talk to, he was a Blood or he wasn't a Blood. So got conflicting stories there on whether or not he's a Blood or not a Blood. I like to think that he wasn't a Blood. I like to believe that he was affiliated with them, kind of like, they were his muscle, and then he just represented them because he was part of the crew. And think about it like this. You can't hang around any gang members that you're closely associated with and you're friends with them and not represent them to a certain degree, because whether you want to believe it or not, or whether you accept it, you're basically, you don't even have to be in the gang, but if you're hanging around some Bloods and you're opposite you, they're gonna automatically identify you as a blood, and that's all there is to it. So I believe Tupac wasn't a gang member; he was just affiliated. But they kind of talk it up so that it makes it plausible that he was killed by the opposition. So I digress on that. But anyhow, so we are going to keep reading. The deal messes our cultural heritage up in the worst way. I agree with you on that. But you know that for those individuals who are the people on top of the pyramid for Hasbro, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would like to go on a limb and say they never listened to rap music in their life. These are individuals who are about capitalistic gains and they want to make money. So any way they can make money, whether it be tarnishing somebody's legacy, then they would do it. Absolutely. Without a doubt. So I'm going to keep reading some questions here, and then we'll keep going. I'm just going to turn off something here real quick as we're going here. I'm trying to get it. I don't think I can get it going, so. But again, thanks everybody for being here tonight. This could be good news or this could be bad news, depending on how you view it. So, true, but some things are best done left alone. What it was meant was a license out the music. Some people called it farming out. Oh, I got you. Who has control of Tupac's masters? Well, according to the news, Tupac's estate, they own the masters. Now, are there some Tupac songs that are maybe included in this deal for Eone? Absolutely. Without a doubt. I wouldn't say that there wouldn't be any, because there's a possibility they are. But according to sources, the Tupac estate owns all of Tupac's songs. So, yes. I'll go ahead and stop that loop there so you can read your comments. And let's see what we have here. So, who has control? Okay, we went to that. Snoop only had a classic, real good album, Doggy Style. Glasses Malone said all that crap because he's that. And two, he has to go with his homies. Pac has been the greatest since day one. I agree with you certainly on that. Facts. They are probably old white men that have no idea about rap music. I would say that they could be a multitude of cultures, but for certainly, I can almost say that maybe they've never listened to rap music, and they're certainly going to figure out every single method to maximize on the return for themselves and also for the shareholders of Hasbro, because I mean the whole point of buying a company is to make money, and they're going to do it by all means necessary. So yeah, I agree with you on that. But skipping on this, and this is just something somebody sent me, just want to talk about it with a group. You can have your opinion on it. I don't know anything about it. I just know that it was kind of interesting, and I always thought, like, you know what, there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that if you analytically go from A to Z in Las Vegas and you analyze every single step of what happened that night, then you start kind of asking questions like, here's a question that, and I'll just throw this out there as an example. The person who was talking in the beginning of Machiavelli when they were talking about Nas and Mobb Deep, I've never been able to identify who that person is. And I don't think anybody's ever been able. I'm sure somebody knows in this group, but I don't know if anybody's been able to really identify who that person was. So it's just like little things that are on songs and little things that happen in different moments in time that we've never really filled in the gaps. We've always looked at the bigger picture, like we've always looked at the drive down on Colville and things of that like that. Things larger events, but when you start looking at the little bitty pieces of the events, you start just kind of piecing things together, and then you can kind of ask yourself what these things are. So I'll answer these last questions, and then I'll actually go into the next segment so we could actually talk about it, and you can certainly voice your opinion, and we can try to see if maybe we'll be able to identify something. But you know who would be a really good person to speak with? The person who was doing the press conference the night that Tupac was shot. I don't remember his name. I think his name was Sergeant McGurdy. I'm not too familiar. African American gentleman who was speaking to the press, and he was kind of like in a dark street, and he was talking to them. That'd be a really good person to talk to, and that's one person that no one's been able to talk to. But before we go in to the next segment, I just want to let you guys know that, and I'm not going to put out too much, but the Harry O audio that you heard was from a source, and certain people have been talking to certain people about actually getting more of the story, and I hate to put it in such a context like that, but the thing is you have certain people who will try to roadblock certain people from talking to you, and they've been doing it for a long time, and half of the time they've been wrong. No one pays attention to them, and then the others, these people are able to manipulate certain individuals not to talk to you. So I can't really tell you who it is, but there is more on the way, and I'll leave it at that. But I'm not going to say who, what, where, nothing like that, because there's certain people that will try to ruin it. And honestly, it probably wouldn't even happen anyways, because to be honest with you, this, Michael Harris is going a different direction in life. He's not associated with that lifestyle anymore. Matter of factly, he's basically 30 years older with a lot of more maturity, and he just has a different mission in life. And if you want to know his mission in life, is basically he's going to be running a nonprofit, trying to help people reform and things of that nature. But he has a story to tell, and it may not be the information that's juicy, because he probably doesn't want to bring any of that back, because that's the past for him, and he doesn't identify with that life anymore. But he has a great story to tell that can kind of change things for certain people that are kind of going through uncertainty about their life, dealing with crime and stuff of that nature. So there will be more stuff from him. So, and you never know, he may make some very salacious claims. Who knows? But I will tell you this: he certainly transformed his life to be a bigger and better person than what he was 30 years ago. So I'll leave it at that. So you want to own Tupac Masters? That's what I think. Well, I think Molly had a lot to do with the E1 thing, as far as getting masters and things like that. We talked about it with JMKAZE. He basically said some things about Molly that were true, as far as her association with the Tupac estate and trying to get different songs from different people. And then, of course, you have, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you have Big Kaz, saying that he had Tupac masters and things of that nature. I don't know. All I can tell you is this. I'm not saying he's lying, because I don't want to call anybody a liar, because that's not the direction I want to go. But if you have encrypted files inside a CD on, let's say that you make something a hidden, then basically what you do is you go to your folder options, and then you do unhide, and you hide all those files. Unhide them. And then they show up. So, listening to the story about, dragging the mouse and then it, pointing at something and clicking, that's not completely accurate. I'm not saying, like I said, he's a liar or anything like that. But it could have been a CD he had. I don't know. But there was a lot of Machiavelli CDs, I think there was like 1 through 20 at one point. Because I remember when he first died, Tupac, that there was all these CDs coming out. Machiavelli 1, of course, was a legit release. You had Machiavelli 2, Machiavelli 3, Machiavelli 4, so forth and so on. I remember it going up to Machiavelli 20, and you can buy these at the corner store. Basically, they were bootlegs. So somebody, of course, released all this music, and then they sent it out. And was that done for nefarious reasons? Yeah, of course, because people were profiting off of that. But there's one particular person, and that's always been a contention of the person who stole that music and then released it out into the black market, so to speak. So I have Machiavelli 2 through 20. I still have it. And some of it is good, and some of it is not good because of the recording and because of the mixing, mastering, and things like that. Some of those songs were incomplete. But I think you said, "Oh, Never Obey." You got that? The Tupac's dead. Yeah. So we're going back to Tupac's music. So yes, like I said, there's various stories that they were on NATs and that they were on hard drives and things like that. I can't recall if there was a hard drive. I'm sure there was a hard drives back then. I mean, all computers had hard drives. I mean, it wasn't a floppy disk. In 1996, computers had hard drives. So I don't know if they were external, but they were internal. I can tell you that. So, but I'm going to read the rest of these questions and we'll jump into the next segment. And then it's not going to be a very long show. We're going to probably go to 11 o'clock tonight and then call it just because got a long day tomorrow. But I wanted to just come out, talk with you, chat with you, get the Tupac community going. I've been away. JMKAZE has gone away. If you've been really following him, he's pretty much just living his life, taking trips, going places. He has some stuff that he wants to put out. Right now, he's just waiting for the right time. And I think pretty much he just kind of lost his passion for certain things because of certain people. But it wasn't because, they ran him off or anything like that. It's just, I think certain people at certain times decide that they're going to start living their life and start enjoying it more and kind of let the riffraff kind of just stay around and just, until it's time to say goodbye. And then after that, it all goes away. So I anticipate him coming back later. And of course, this is RJ Bond. He's there. He can't live stream. He doesn't have over 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to him, go subscribe to him. Channel promotion's okay. Not here to censor anybody's. You're free to choose who you want to go and subscribe to. But without saying any names, I could tell you one thing. In the Tupac community, a couple of people have gone crazy, have gone out of their mind. There's something mentally going on with two guys that are just whacked out of their mind. And hopefully they get some help because, mental illness could be real. And you got to get yourself together. And yeah, some of these stories are just very outlandish when it comes to, and no offense to anybody who believes Tupac's alive, but some of these stories about Tupac being alive are just, man, they're out there. They're just out there. First he's in South Africa, then he's in Cuba, then he's everywhere. But one place he's not alive. He's not here. And we're never going to see him again. Never. But the hope of him being alive for some people, because a lot of times hope is what people do to survive. They need hope everywhere. Anything. Hope is what makes people keep going. The hope of a better life, the hope of more money, the hope of being a better parent, whatever it may be, hope will always drive you. So for some people, if Tupac is alive, then that's okay. They have hope. So I never obey. He'll never give up the idea that Tupac is not alive, and we play around like that. I razz him about Tupac being dead, and he says he's alive, but it's okay. It's all in jest, and nobody's gonna get mad, and nobody's going to, blow a gasket because we don't believe that, Tupac is not alive or whatever it may be. So, but I'll read a few more comments, and then we'll move into the next segment, and then next one will be interesting. It's about Las Vegas. So how does Harry-O feel about the Hasbro buyout? I'm sure he'll have a comment for that. I don't know. I mean, he's going to be asked a lot of questions. I mean, halfway house first, and then, of course, out into the free world. And he's going to live in my hometown, my old hometown. He's going to live in San Antonio, Texas. I lived there for many years. And great city, but just too small for me. And, of course, I had to get up and expand my horizons and do other things. So I've seen a lot of other places, but great city, great slow-moving city for especially for reforming yourself. There's not a lot of here. I guess the thing is that if you go back into the environment that you came from, that got you there in the first place, then you're probably going to fall back into the same song and dance. So it was probably good for him to just go away to a different place, new beginnings. But it may not even been his decision anyways. But best of luck to him for sure on that. So we'll read a few more comments here and go up the line. Sorry if I'm not staying with the script here. So he ain't dead. All right, Brandman, I still St. Ives beer poster of him and Snoop. That's rare. I've never seen that. And speaking of St. Ives, and I don't want to get off subject, but you can go and listen to my interview. I actually spoke with somebody, and it's one of my first interviews. I actually spoke with somebody who was a long-term employee for St. Ives that dealt with all the departments, who dealt with the promotions department, who dealt with just everything you think of. Because St. Ives wasn't a really, really big company back then. And, of course, they sold and they made a lot of money eventually. But I spoke to somebody who was a long-term employee there. And I wasn't fishing for answers. I basically was asking questions like an interviewer. And she pretty much told me everything you need to know about the St. Ives commercial. You take it whatever direction you want, whatever information you get from it, whatever compels you to give you your opinion on that, then you most certainly do it. But that was a legit interview I had with her. At the beginning, I do my commentary, but then at a certain point, we get into the conversation. I actually called the company that used to own St. Ives for all those years, and she basically was able to identify a lot of stuff, and she had a lot of information for me. So, yeah. So Google it. I frame mine. I even own his quotes that come out of the Sprite cans. I have one of the Sprite cans. I can't remember which one it is, but I have one of them. And let's see here. He's alive. I've heard that Pac was hanging with him. I'm going to go look for it. Nah, it's all love. Most of my friends think I'm crazy. Dude, talk about him. Incredible heat in the West. Lord have mercy. It's insane. Pissed that beer, tasted it, sold like cakes back in the 90s. Yeah, I had a high alcohol content. I don't know, maybe 10% or something like that. I think they're doing the 211 reserves today for maybe, I think I read a can the other day. It said 8.9%, and basically you have what Budweiser's 5.0 or something like that, 5.4, something like that. So, I mean, you can get really blasted on 211s really quickly. It's a budget beer, but it tastes like crap. So yeah, not a very not a very good beer. So, but anyways, enough about that. So jumping into the next segment, and it's just a question that was asked, and you certainly may give your comment, tell me what you think. So, question that was sent to me was this. Ever wonder who the cop was that pulled over Suge in Vegas just before Tupac was shot? So, I don't think that anybody has been able to identify who that police officer was. And was there ever a report made by that police officer that said that he pulled over Suge Knight that night in 1996? If anybody wants to give their opinion on that, certainly do so. But I haven't heard anything about that ever. And that was a question. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So, was it Greg? I don't think it was Greg Kading. Yeah, I don't know. No, it wasn't Greg Kading. But that's always been interesting. Like, who is the police officer that pulled him over? I mean, you know, there's somebody, when they were doing the investigation, there's somebody who certainly must have asked that question, because that is a fact. That is a fact. Right? Somebody pulled over them for having loud music. So who was that did that? We don't know. But that was a question they asked, and I was like, well, let me let me see who it was that pulled him over. And then the other part of it was that, was this a real police officer or an imposter? Is there any record of the cop pulling over Suge? So I guess the reason why this person sent this in was because I think that there's been some in books somewhere, have to find it, but I know I've read it before, that somebody was using police uniforms to go to people's houses and arrest them and then kill them. I think it was like at the Compton graveyard or something like that. I don't remember who it was, but it's kind of like what the Mexican police do. Well, the cartels in Mexico, they, they have official police uniforms, and they go and they pull over their rival cartel members, and of course the rival cartel members don't know any better. They basically put handcuffs on them, throw them in the back of the car, and then take them on a sweet ride. So, could that have been the same exact situation that night? Was it that the police officer pulled him over and he was in on it? They pulled him over so they can kind of get everything all set up, kind of get it, get the shooters ready or whatever to, have it all coordinated rather than, some fly-by-night operation. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that, I mean, it could be a possibility, potentially, depending on what you believe. I mean, you have the critics that say that Orlando Anderson did it. And, Orlando Anderson just happens to run into Tupac at the MGM Grand. Well, let's just go down this, because we've already gone down this before. But let me just go down this for you so that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from and why I can't believe the story. So we go all the way back to when Jake Robles dies. We'll make this quick. We're not gonna just salient points here. It's not a talking point. Jake Robles dies, according to Greg Kading. Orlando Anderson was there in a powder blue jacket, right? This is in 1995. This is for Tupac was associated with Deathrow. Okay. So then, 1996, Orlando Anderson supposedly steals a chain at a Foot Locker, right? Nothing happens to him. Oh, and he was, like I said, he was there at Jake Robles' death. So strike 1 on him. Strike 2 is a chain. Strike 3, he's a Southside Crip, right? Strike 4, he shoots at the police officer's car, according to Tim Brennan. As a gang initiation, doesn't get arrested. They know it's him. They identified him. Didn't arrest him for it. Strike 4. So Orlando Anderson has been known to evade arrest and just pretty much live like I say, the Teflon Don, and no one's ever messed with him and no one ever does anything to him. And then his fateful night, he happens to be in the same area Tupac's in. Thousands of people there that night. And he just happens to be in there. Now, here's the one thing that is kind of interesting that I've seen recently, and people might disagree with me. But when we talk about the whisper in the ear from Trayvon Lane, when you look at that video, when Suge and him are together, and Suge, if you listen to that audio very well, Suge's talking about something about chips. He says something about chips. And I'm assuming gambling chips. And if you don't believe me, go back and listen to it. Some idiot who had a great recording of it, and I think it's not a YouTuber. Whoever had the original recording had put some music over it, right? So they own the original somewhere, but this numbnuts, he put music over it. But if you listen really, really well, and you might even be able to mix it and master it to where you're able to take out the music and just listen to the words. Suge says something about chips. And that's when you see Tupac's face. And then you see that look in his face like of just distaste. And that's when he runs that direction. And you don't see him until he's getting pushed back by somebody. And that's when that whole ordeal is going on where, they're beating up Orlando Anderson. So you hear all these stories, and you have this one individual who says that, oh man, this beef was deep, and these, it was heated. It was, like, in other words, it was so heated that Tupac wasn't protected properly. And you would have to think that somebody's lying about this whole heated beef. And then you have, of course, Keefe D talking about that he saw Suge September 6 and everything was cool and they shook hands. And the other thing too is, and I don't know if this is just Keefe D being Keefe D, but I mean, they certainly did hang out a lot, and they knew each other very well to where Keefe D was invited over to Suge's mansion, so they were doing some kind of video shoot, and supposedly they were cool the day before and all this other stuff. And it's just like, you would think to yourself they would have talked this thing out if that was the story to be, which, as I mentioned, I don't believe that narrative, but you would have thought they would have talked it out as much as they hung out and knew each other and things like that. So with that being said, Orlando Anderson gets beat down. He goes back. He gets revenge. And I'm just saying this from their perspective. So with all this heated beef, you would have thought that they would have been more protective of Tupac, supposedly. But I don't believe that narrative, though. Because that narrative comes from a few people. And then the whole Poochie narrative comes from a few people. But it can only be corroborated by those few people. And, of course, Greg Kading. So it just identifies with his story. It just favors the story he wants to tell, that there's no police involved in any of these crimes. That's all it is. And, of course, he's going to be favorable to telling a story that's biased to police officers and nothing further. So that was a very interesting thing. Was just, could it have been a real police officer, or could it just been somebody who was in a police uniform that pulled over them to kind of set up something bigger? I mean, I'm sure if you call Las Vegas Metropolitan PD and maybe asked if there's ever any record of any police officer pulling over Suge, then, you'd be able to get the information. But let me make it clear. I don't believe in the Orlando Anderson theory. I don't believe in the narrative. I don't believe in any of that. I just think that it's a little strange about how things went about. But I'll leave it at that. But you know what? I guess the other thing that I will say is you have certain people who are very vindictive and would have probably been like, I don't want to. I'm not gonna protect Tupac. You know, could have been numerous people, especially when someone gets fired. They could have been like, I don't care about that guy. Fired me. You know. So I mean, there's many reasons why you could believe what you want to believe, but I just think that certain things were a little strange, and lo and behold, the day that Orlando Anderson dies, they have a warrant out for his arrest for a murder or whatever it is. Those are just like made up, salacious stories to make it seem plausible that he was the actual killer, and the actual suspect is when they say stuff like that. We were going to arrest him the day that he got killed, and we had a warrant that, we were going to get him for a murder. I don't know if it was Tupac's murder. I don't remember the context of the conversation, but I know that it was said that they were going to arrest Orlando Anderson the day he got killed. Coincidental. Like I say, lots of coincidences. I mean, if you want to call Orlando Anderson anything, you would call him, if they made a movie about him, he would be called the Coincidental Man. The Coincidental Man. You know why? Because he coincidentally sees Tupac out of thousands of people in the MGM Grand. He coincidentally finds Tupac on the strip when there's thousands of people, hundreds of people out there partying. He knew the exact same time he saw Tupac driving down the street. What do you know? He was at the murder of Jake Rubles. That's coincidental. He was at the Foot Locker to steal a chain. That was coincidental. This guy is the Coincidental Man. He's dead now, but if he lived long enough, I think that would have been his new name. It would have been Baby Lane. It would have been Coincidental Man. So, and then there's different stories about, well, they didn't call us. They called us. The one from the Entourage called us. Somebody from the Entourage did call us. We didn't have beef with them. All the beef was heated with them. Things like that. And then there was the one last thing about, I think it was EDI, or I think it was EDI. They went to the police department to identify, because they could identify who the guy was. They could identify who the killer was. All these people identified, supposedly confidential informants identified Orlando Anderson as the shooter, but not one person from the Las Vegas Metropolitan PD ever pursued any of those leads. And if you know anything today, people get hemmed up for circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial, you just got to be in the car. You don't even have to pull the trigger. If you were in that car, if somebody identified you as being in that car, you would have been in handcuffs. But something forbid Las Vegas Metropolitan PD from doing a thorough investigation, because there is something there that people don't want to accept. If it was a open and shut door case, and you had all these confidential informants supposedly from the Southside Crips even that were saying that supposedly Baby Lane did it, man, he would have been hemmed up quicker than you know it. When they went to go investigate and they questioned him, they didn't even arrest him. They arrested him to question him. They didn't arrest him for him to go to jail or get indicted. And they supposedly had all these informants that did this, that said this, and all these things. And don't get me wrong, there would have been one person, and there was. That's why there were confidential informants. And it doesn't matter or not if, where you always hear the excuse, they were maybe afraid for their life. They didn't want to testify because whatever. There would have been somebody who would have testified if if Las Vegas Metropolitan PD would have pursued it even more. But there's a reason why they didn't pursue it more. There's a reason why. I don't think Compton PD was very transparent with him, and I don't think LAPD was very transparent with him. You heard Brent Becker. He said that when they went, that they said they could identify him. When they went to go question, he said he couldn't identify anybody. So, in not so many words, Brent Becker basically said that they were playing games with him because they said they could identify who the shooter was or somebody, and then they said they couldn't identify him. And think about it like this. I don't even know if this ever happened or not. I would like to hope that they were doing their police work, candidly. But, and maybe you can chime in, did they even show them a six-pack, Las Vegas Metropolitan PD? Did they show a six-pack to anybody who was in the entourage? To Frank Alexander, to Yak, to Idi Amin, to anybody? Did they even show a six-pack? Because think of it this way. If they were getting information, intel from people that it was the Southside Crips, then basically all they had to do was just get a six-pack, show it to somebody, and be like, hey, did you see any of these guys? I don't know if they did that or not. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But what I do know is there's a reason why. And I can't sit here and say I know who killed Tupac and it was this person or that person or whatever. I'm just saying that it's a little strange that with everything that's ever happened, from every scenario, from everything that Orlando Anderson ever did from 1995 or even before that had anything to be done regarding Deathrow Records or his dislike or his transgressions against him, nothing ever happened to him. And not even the police department. And you heard it in Who Killed Tupac. You heard Brent, you heard Bobby Ladd, and you heard Tim Brennan say that Orlando Anderson shot at their car, shot at their hood as a gang initiation. They knew who he was. But here's what I believe. What I believe is that if you do certain favors for certain people, you get away from the things that you did. And I'll leave it at that. So again, I'll say it one more time in case you didn't really put 2 cents into it. Certain people will let you slide for certain things if you do certain things for them. And and I believe with everything that's been said, all this folklore about Orlando Anderson, there's a reason why he was never arrested. Never arrested. He basically lived 2 years. And not only that, but check this out. This is always a point of contention too. All these guys are beating up Orlando Anderson, and the only one that gets killed is Tupac. I mean, you want to do maximum damage, you would have been trying to shoot up everybody in that entourage. But whoever that killer was gunning for Tupac. They were gunning for Tupac. So I'll leave it at that. So that's that for today. And then I'll leave you with my last and final thoughts. And this is just an overview. We already talked about this already. Snoop, the Tupac hater. And people will say Snoop loves Tupac. But if you listen to the song Bygones, and I posted that on my page, just as an example, at the end, when Snoop Dogg's saying rest in peace, Nate Dogg, rest in peace, this person, Ricky Harris, not one time does he say rest in peace, Tupac Shakur. If that's your friend, and that's your dog, supposedly, and you made a song about bygones, and you're trying to put all the past behind you, and you have love for Tupac, then you would have said rest in peace, Tupac. But if you go listen to that song Bygones, there's no rest in peace, Tupac. So Snoop Dogg will use Tupac's name for more fame, for more publicity, for more exposure. But deep down, we know that Snoop Dogg doesn't really care about Tupac. And that's my opinion. And then Glasses Malone, is a hater. End of story. We know that, as we talked about earlier, the C Gang will always favor the C Gang and talk highly of the C Gang, but they'll never talk about, they won't really talk highly about a Blood, if you want to say he was one, or somebody who identified with Bloods, which was Tupac Shakur. And then lastly, we have, and this is just a point I'm going to make here. So you have people that say, well, Tupac, you know, he was a Crip at first, then he turned to a Blood, and that's where he ruined everything. Tupac wasn't a gang member. He was an associate, and he was a smart man because he just rode for his homies is what he did. And that's what he did. He rode for his homies. He was from Oakland. There ain't no C's and B's in Oakland. There may be. There's more players in Oakland than anything. And I would say there's probably a lot of neutrons in Oakland than in California, Los Angeles, California, or places like that where you have a vast amount of C's or B's. So I just say Tupac was just riding for his homies. He wasn't a gang member. Think about it. He was making millions of dollars. He didn't care about any of that. He was just down. That's what it was. That's what it was. But if you would have asked Tupac the day before he died, if you would have asked him, got two choices for you, Tupac. You're going to keep going on with your career. You're making millions of dollars. Or do you want to go join a gang? The answer's simple. He's going to go and make $1 million. So I'll read a few more comments, and then I'm going to wrap it up. But I appreciate y'all being here. Never Obey, Jamar, Brand Make More, I Buy Houses, Yeezy 808. All you that came in tonight, thank you. Didn't have to come in. So I'll read a few comments, and then we'll wrap it up for today. But that's pretty much it. But besides the Not Lose Track, I don't know if you guys read that story about some guy. It was some guy that had to deal with City Hall or something like that. He was a lawmaker. He was something. I think he was in Iowa. He had gotten fired because he had kept writing numerous like Tupac letters and quotes and things like that to his coworkers, and pretty much got him in trouble. They say he didn't, but you know, it was just something that was like overzealous by him, by just writing, you know, things about Tupac, like his love and his affection for him. I apologize, his affection for him. And then I guess somebody got tired of it, and they finally said, enough is enough. So, all right. So, do talk about this incredible heat in the West. All right. It was great. They'll have to, it was beaten up on the set of St. Ives commercial by Pac's people. I think Greg was at MGM after the Orlando fight. Because they knew it couldn't be those guys. I remember the bicycle cop who pulled over Suge and Pac. Since Dave Mack and Rafa Perez were in Vegas, what do you think they were doing at the time of the shooting? I always heard Kevin Gaines was in Las Vegas. You know, that Vegas thing. You know, we don't know what that Vegas thing is. No one's ever put any clarification to that. I mean, it's just a pretty simple, basic explanation. Just, you know, what it was. But it's always like pulling teeth when you're trying to like get stories. Yep, it was an ambush. How about the hit on Big? Orlando Foot Locker incident was made up. Joe was part of the plot. He's the one who whispered in Tupac's ear. Still on, I can't understand how the Cadillac pulled right next to the BMW on the bumper-to-bumper traffic. Orlando was a snitch. Never Obey. Assassination car was boxed in. Never heard that about the chips. The original recording is owned by Interscope. It was used in the Defiant Ones documentary. Easy, okay, but why isn't anybody outside involved ever came out and said anything about what they witnessed? Pros don't talk. If they do, they die. Never Obey. Well, initially, Gaddafi told Napoleon it wasn't Orlando, but he was assassinated. He also said the drivers had a face, so people did see the driver. The shooter, Frank Alexander, said it was dark arm. Easy. everybody that was happened. I'll share the different accounts of what happened. Frank was in the second car, and he could see, check out diagrams. I thought it was pretty interesting, too, that they didn't have any gas in the car. There's just all these coincidences. Dirty cops, Rampart, let a barricade to control the scene. The help of that guy, who was the only one who knew where they were at times. Both Pac and Big were killed. The same girls used to talk to them. Cars pulled up, boxed in. Big the Red, 2 deaths. Don't y'all think it's strange about how Big got killed and cut off from everyone in the motorcade when he died? These murders aren't solved because dirty cops kill both, which is lawsuits up the ass. They keep it covered up. That goes to the White House. Too many people involved. Easy. Been shot and murdered. Can't tell you how. All I've heard was that no one was a DR. Car stopped the light. The park at the night. Don't y'all find it odd? Diddy was a real target. It would have been pretty good if Diddy was a target for sure, because really he's the one that deserves all this. Pretty much scary. Never obey. Pac was the GOAT. Catalog was too deep for someone who wrote that from age 19 to 25 and listened to the song. Shot about swollen. Never heard about the cops pulling out the mug shots. DR didn't because they were threatened by guess who? Suge, that guy. Yeah, I think it was that guy and David Kenner. Figures Snoop was jealous of Pac. Just listen to Frank Exeter tapes. Record the phone calls. David Kenner. You know, and that was the funny thing too with David Kenner's like, something tells me you were talking to Compton Pity. Basically, when you do things like that, it's to see what people are going to say. You know, you word things like that. Like, you would say, like, so somebody told me that you were talking to the police in Los Angeles. And then, of course, they want to see what your reaction is. They never heard that. They just say that kind of stuff to kind of filter information from you. And Dave Kenner did that. Snoop asked, going to Vegas. He didn't even go. He kept calling Biggie on the murder trial. He was part of the setup. Snoop should have done life for that murder. Kevin Gaines, Snoop bodyguard. What was it? The evidence was missing from the Pacific Division locker room. And who worked in the Pacific Division locker room? Or, you know, who had access to it? Some Rampart cops. Only Nate Dogg was there. He was on the phone. Easy, at least they have Suge. Eyes and ears. He's always denied it. I think he's showing us. I think they've been showing us the killer a lot lately. He's all over YouTube. Daz was high as a kite and slipped up. Jimmy Mouton link, never obey. Just saw that. Poster man. Post a link if you have that link there. But I just want to say, now, you know, there's a few individuals who, you know, they talk their smack. They try to be funny to their little minions who follow them and all that. But, man, let me tell you something. I don't care what those people say. They don't mean nothing to me. I have my life. They have their life. Their life ain't looking too good right now. And they should be focused more on their life and not mine. Because the problem is that they just have too much time on their hands to talk about other people. And they need to be focused on their life that's in front of them. Because it's going to be a hard one. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to sit here and say people's names and call people names and all that kind of stuff. And I don't need to do that. My biggest payback is that I get to live the free life in the free world. And I get to travel, and I get to do things, and I get to explore. So, just want to say, you know, goodbye to, you know, those people who are only here to cause problems. And you're not going to get a reaction from me. You're not going to get no names from me. Just know that what you say doesn't make any difference to me. It might mean something to the people that you speak to, but not to me. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Didn't mean to be on my soapbox. I think I just had to address that before. Certain privileges are taken away from certain people, and they're no longer able to spread their hate message, because that's what it is. So if I ever give you any advice, it's just to be positive and Surround yourself around positive people, because when you surround yourself around negative people, or when you surround yourself around certain individuals, you become that individual. And then you got to ask yourself, do you want to be the king of the good people, or do you want to be the king of the dumb people? And whatever floats your boat, that's what you go with. So, thank you again. We'll live stream soon again. There'll be some more Tupac content. Be looking out for other interviews that are going to be coming. And as I mentioned to you all, always seek the truth, no matter where it takes you. Never obey. Good night. Yeezy, good night. Brandon Maker, good night. Jamar, good night. All y'all, good night. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.